Hey besties, welcome to my channel. My name is Cheska and I'm a Filipino international student here in Canada on a mission to share my incredible journey of living and studying abroad with all of you. For our very first episode, we would be sharing how my partner and I became permanent residents in 1 year and 11 months as temporary residents and 3 months from our application. We would also be explaining what our pathway was, the documents and the process that we have undertaken in regards to this pathway, the fees associated with this pathway, and also the timeline that we had throughout this journey. If you're interested to become an international student here in Canada, I'm going to be making videos more about it in the future, but there are also a lot of videos right now on YouTube on how to do it, like the process and how long it took and all the fees and that stuff. But for this video, we're going to be focusing on how my partner and I became permanent residents. So in September 2021, we arrived in Canada. I was an international student with my partner and I was set to study at the University of Victoria. On even before we came to Canada, we have already been researching pathways for us to become permanent residents here in Canada. I know most of us apply initially as temporary residents. In my case, for example, I applied to become an international student, but we all know that one of our long-term goals is to actually stay in the country permanently. One of the reasons why we chose this pathway is because we know that if we apply through Express Entry directly, our points would not be enough. For us, the best case scenario is to be nominated by the province so that we could get that additional 600 points in our Express Entry profile, and from there we would be invited to become permanent resident. So our pathway is called the BC Provincial Nominee Program with the option of applying through Express Entry. It's an economic immigration program for people in British Columbia. It's for workers and recent graduates of Canadian post-secondary institutions with the skills, experience, and education which are needed in the province of British Columbia. To be eligible for this program, you would need an indeterminate and full-time job offer from an eligible employer, or if you're a recent graduate, you would also need an indeterminate and full-time job offer from an eligible employer. Once you're approved for this program, you and your dependents can apply through Express Entry through the provincial nominee class. The BC PNP Skills Immigration Program is composed of 5 different streams designed for a variety of skills and experience, and 4 of these streams have the option to apply through Express Entry, which is what we did. So the exact stream that we chose is the BC PNP Skilled Worker. What are the requirements to become eligible for this program? First, intention to live in BC. So obviously, if you're not living in BC and you're living at any other province, then you're not eligible to apply for this program for obvious reasons. Second, economic benefit to British Columbia. And third, immigration status in Canada. So obviously the province would not nominate you if you don't have any legal status in Canada or if you're out of status in Canada. Next requirement is the language proficiency. Depending on the classification of the job that you have been offered, you may be required to meet the minimum language proficiency for either English or French. So in our case, my partner took the self-pip general to prove that he is proficient in English. The next requirement, and arguably one of the most important requirements, is the signed job offer letter from your employer. So I'm just going to show on screen what this letter should indicate in relation to your position. Next, your BC employer must meet specific requirements in order to support your BC PNP application. This includes providing you with specific documentations and submitting a signed declaration. Next, your wage offer must be similar to what they pay to Canadians and permanent residents with similar training, education, and experience, and it must be at the market rate for the occupation. And then lastly, you must meet the minimum income requirements according to your annual wage, your area of residence in British Columbia, as well as the number of dependents that you have. So all of the requirements that I've just mentioned are considered general requirements and must be met for all of the streams that are under the BC PNP Skills Immigration. So when it comes to the specific stream that we have applied for, which is the BC PNP skilled worker, they have different requirements on top of the general requirements. Not many of you know, but the BC PNP Tech is not a separate stream. It's still under the BC PNP skilled worker stream. And the only difference is you would have to prove that the position in your job offer is included in the occupation list of the BC PNP Tech. So let's go to the specific requirements of the skilled worker stream, which is what we applied for. First, you must be eligible for all the general requirements that I have just previously mentioned. Second, you must be offered a job in a skilled occupation that is in NOC Tier 0, 1, 2, or 3. Third, you must have a minimum of 2 years full-time experience in any skilled occupation, NOC Tier 0, 1, 2, or 3. Fourth, your employer must meet the employer requirements as detailed in the program guide of the BC Skills Immigration. And lastly, any additional requirements if you're going to use the Express Entry option like what we did. This is part 2 of how my partner and I became permanent residents here in Canada. So once you've met all the requirements, including the general and the specific requirements for the stream that you're applying for, there's nothing else to do but to apply for the BCPNP Skills Immigration Program. In just a little bit, we're going to show you the process that we have taken to apply for the BCPNP, and I've asked Billy today to help me share with you this information. Since we applied together, can you take us through the process?
Yeah, sure. First things first, they should register by creating an account and profile at BC PNP site. They can find the link below at the description section. After creating BC PNP profile, you will be given points based on human capital and economic factors.
So the human capital factors would include directly related work experience, the highest level of education, and language proficiency in English or French. While the economic factors would include the hourly wage of the BC job offer, as well as the area within BC of your job offer.
You will be given points each of those sub-factors, and when combined, the total maximum point is 200. The next step is getting invited to apply, depending on the cutoff score.
So once you get that ITA, you will be then asked to pay for the application fee, which we'll be tackling later on.
Once you receive your ITA, you have 30 days to compile your documents, upload it, and submit your application.
Once your application is approved for the BCPNP, you will then receive a confirmation of nomination that allows you to apply for permanent residence at IRCC, and that means that you would then get your 600 points, additional 600 points in your Express Entry profile. So once you have this extra 600 points in your Express Entry profile, normally it will allow you to rank high enough to be invited for permanent residency.
Get ready your documents because you only have 60 days to compile, upload, and submit your applications.
That's why for us, it was imperative that we were able to get our documents ready before all of this process, because getting those documents some of these documents would take longer than 60 days. So one of those documents that you would need to submit for your PR application is your police certificate and your employment letter, which is also called as COE in the Philippines. So if you think that you would need more time than 60 days to get those documents, such as if you need to apply for NBI or for your police clearance in other countries and that would take longer than 60 days, then I suggest that you get those documents ready and on hand before you apply for your permanent residency.
So the fees we paid for BCPNP application is 1,150 for both of us. And for IRCC application, we paid 1,365 each, so the total would be $2,730. For our timeline, we created BCPNP profile on February 2023. We received an invitation to apply after 4 days, and we submitted all the documents by March. And after a month, we were given 600 points.
So after we were given 600 points and we were nominated, we accepted that 600 points in our Express Entry profile in April 23, and we got invited to apply 3 days later for permanent residency. After that, we submitted our application and our documents on May 27 of this year, and last August 29th, we already received our electronic confirmation of our permanent residency. Right now, we're only waiting for our permanent residency card, and that's gonna take 36 days from submitting our photo and confirming our mailing address in Canada. So we were given our electronic confirmation of our permanent residency about 3 months or so from our date of application and submission of our documents. And this would only work if you have the documents ready on hand. Before you apply for BC PNP, you must already have your Express Entry profile because they're gonna be needing your Express Entry profile number as well as a job seeker validation code.
Yep.
There were a lot of documents that we have submitted,
Yes,
both
there were a
for
lot.
BCPNP as well as the Express Entry side of our application, and we won't have enough time to discuss all of the documents that we have submitted. So we'll just
Yep.
put the link or the
Below.
list of the documents in the description box below, and or you can just comment if you have any questions regarding the documents that we have submitted. But most importantly, you have to read the technical guide, the
Yes.
post-nomination process, as well as the program guide of the BCPNP that can be found on the website, or we'll also link them in the
Yes, you can
description
provide
box below. So that's it. That's how we were able to become a permanent resident in less than 2 years as temporary residents and 3 months from our application date. Bye!